Hey, this is Darren Laws, and this is the Darren Laws podcast. This is episode 3, I believe, and what we're going to be discussing today in today's podcast, wherever you're watching this, if you're watching the video or listening on the podcast, what we're going to be discussing today are systems and processes. So fundamentally, I believe that systems and processes can solve any problem in your business, in any business. Most of the problems that I've come across in businesses are because there isn't a robust enough system and procedure in place to cope with that problem. Implementing the right procedure, the right fix, and then a procedure to remove that problem from happening again is going to be pushing the business forward. Why do I believe that? Well, I've got a lot of experience of doing this, but let's give you some examples. So whatever the problem is that you're currently facing, I can guarantee it's because the process that you have isn't working. And it may be because there isn't a process. Everybody that performs that task, whatever that task is, if you're your staff or whatever, everybody that performs that task, if there isn't a procedure in place for that to be successful and repeatable, they could do it in a different way. They can interpret it differently. They'll make up their own way of doing it. If there's no structure to create a repeatable outcome, then a repeatable outcome won't be created from it. So you'll have failures in your processes, you'll have higher reject rates, you'll have quality issues with your products and your services and stuff like that. You'll have to keep going back to stuff, putting things right if you're installing machines and stuff like that. I've seen this so many times where companies have to go back time and time again to put things right because silly mistakes have been made. Now look, everybody makes mistakes, it's human nature, but if you have a robust enough system and procedure in place, you can remove them mistakes. You can reduce the frequency of them and also the severity of these things, so that when these things happen, you have a procedure to get around it and it doesn't cause you any problem. Even if your problem is hiring, then you don't have a procedure in place to hire people. You haven't sat down and thought about who are the people that you want in this task and this role. How are they going to act? What are they going to look like? Well, how do they, what are their current frustrations where they are? Why are they moving? If you haven't thought about how you're going to identify who are the right people, what are the right traits in an interview or in an interview process, then you've not got a procedure for hiring the right people, and you're going to come across problems. It's just going to be hit and miss, and you take who you get. If you have that approach, it can work, but you have to hire and fire really quickly. And just burn through and find people that are great, which you will do eventually. But by having the procedures in place, you can reduce the time frame and the pain that you have to go through to get the right people. So if you're not meeting your targets on sales, it's because your procedures are not right. You haven't got a structure in place that your salespeople are following, or your marketing processes. You haven't done any optimization of all of this. You don't know what you have to do. Your inputs and your outputs. What do you have to do as an input on how many phone calls you have to make, or how many letters you have to send, or how much you have to spend on your marketing in order to get the sales that you want to get at the end of the month? Do you have all of that mapped out? Have you broke that down into procedures? So if you're not hitting your targets, it's a good chance that your procedures for all of that aren't right. Financial problems. How do you deal with money in your business? When it comes in, what do you do with it? Do you have a structured approach of when you take money out, what you spend it on, how much is going to be left? Do you have cash flow forecasts so you know where your lumpy times are in the month and throughout the year? Do you have all of that stuff planned out? You can create procedures around all of that, which makes financial surprises a lot less frequent and a lot less severe. You know exactly what's going on with your cash flow, where you're at, and what you need to do to make a difference when you put all the other bits in place. So pretty much literally every problem in your business can be solved by implementing a system or process. So firstly, what is the difference between a system and a process? Well, a system is the overall structure that everything operates within, and a process is how all the different parts of that system work. So most businesses are built around the owner. They grow organically and they grow generally to a level that the owner can cope with the problems he has to deal with. A business owner is usually the chief problem solver. They're spinning plates all over the place and they can keep things on track, but just by spinning more and more plates. This is why businesses get to a certain level and then they get stuck. Or what happens is the business gets to a certain point and it breaks, or the owner does, because there's just too many plates spinning and he can't deal with any more. Sometimes it isn't the owner. I've seen this before. Sometimes there's a key member of staff that takes on this plate spinning role. In this situation, the business is not truly running itself and it's not able to scale while it's operated in this way. To get over this, you need to create and implement procedures for everything that you do in your business. When you get this right, your team can handle the problems themselves, allowing you to be less and less involved in the regular issues and allowing you to be more focused on the business rather than inside the business. This is how you stop working in the business, allowing you to work on the business, which I have already said. So let's dig a little bit further into why we want to systemize and proceduralize everything and some examples of this. Imagine you're a restaurant. You're a burger restaurant. You sell burgers and fries. You need to have a process in place for how you make everything, how you cook everything, and for how long. So you cook your burgers, how long they're on the hob for, how long the fries are frying for, where you get your buns from, how they're toasted, how the burger is made. You need to know how to take your orders, how to put it all together, and how to deliver it to your customers. If you also add into this a sales and marketing process, what you've had described basically is what McDonald's have done. McDonald's are currently worth $186 billion. Now, you might not get to the size of McDonald's, but a business without systems and processes cannot scale. This is basically what Ray Kroc did to create McDonald's. He took a run-of-the-mill burger shop and systemized the hell out of it, which started it on that trajectory. If you want to go and look up the Ray Kroc film, it's really interesting and probably does a way better job of communicating how Ray Kroc was able to do this and the story behind it, the history of McDonald's and what he did to create the behemoth that is McDonald's. So another systemization and optimization story, and one that quite possibly started the manufacturing systems that I'm used to working with the big corporates, is the Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford couldn't make his cars quick enough in order to make a profit. With a lot of trial and effort and thought into how to create the cars, he eventually created the moving production line. So what he did was, before this, people would work on the cars and around them, and they would move to different parts of the cars. They would go and get bits and pieces and bring them back to the cars to bolt them on. He changed things around so the cars moved with the production line, and it took the work to the people, which made it a way more efficient process. This enabled him to revolutionize his factory, and it meant that he could create the Model T in only 90 minutes. But it did create problems. He started losing workers because they were bored. They didn't like working inside a system that took all of the work out of it. They had to bolt parts on to us within certain time frames, and then the machine, the production line would move the car on to the next stage. They had to get their work done in a certain time scale, and they didn't like it. So they started leaving and going to other car companies. Basically, what he was struggling with there was the change control. He had to make changes to be able to control the outcomes of his business. So what did he do? Well, he paid them more money. He introduced the $5 working day, which basically doubled their wages. He made it a profit share, so they only got their $5 a day if they hit their targets. And the rest is history. I hope that these examples have given you some interest, whet your appetite for creating systems and why you might want to create systems and how you can solve a lot of the problems that you're currently dealing with by introducing and improving some of the processes that you already have, so that you now have a repeatable process. So I hope that this has whet your appetite for creating systems and a procedure so that you can start to revolutionize your business. You can lower your involvement and lower your stress levels at the same time. Now, if we imagine that any given process that we have has 10 different steps, and we can document and proceduralize each individual steps, we now have a repeatable process, and we have a structured process that we can optimize. So we can look at each one of them individual steps and see what we can do to improve them and improve the overall process as a whole. Let's say we want to improve the speed. We only need to improve each individual step by 10%, get a 10% reduction in speed, in time it takes to do that step, in order to reduce the time taken to perform the task by over 2.5 times. This is the structured, no-fail way to guarantee results in any business. I hope you find this useful. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, hit me up at darren@darrenlaws.com. I'll be around with another episode soon, but please like, subscribe, and share this one, and I'll see you shortly. Cheers.